That's why I'm here. I thought I'd get the ball rolling.
Good evening, everybody, and those watching at home and out in the audience tonight. Welcome to the August 2019 Manitowoc County Board of Supervisors monthly meeting. First up will be a pledge of invocation by Supervisor Giroux, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. If everybody please rise.
Dear Lord, please guide us this evening as we deliberate in doing our job to represent all the people of Manitowoc County. Please help us to keep our minds open as we work to understand the complicated issues before us. Please help us to not be prejudiced in our thinking when we believe we are right and others less right. Please help us to keep in mind the many less fortunate than we, and please keep safe those in danger serving in our armed forces as they work to protect us and our freedom. And Lord, please hold off on the rain till after the fair. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much, Supervisor Giroux, and I agree with you wholeheartedly about the rain. And also, I'd like to announce, and I hope I'm not going to embarrass you, but it is Supervisor Giroux's 39th birthday this evening. Well, maybe not 39, but it is his birthday, so happy birthday, happy birthday. Thank you for coming in on this important day to the board meeting, so it shows your respect. So, all right, roll call is going around. 21 members are present. Supervisor Zimmer, Dizak, Holschbach are excused this evening. Supervisor Hansen informed me last week that he might not be there or might be late. He's at football practice, so hopefully he'll be able to attend yet. So we do have a quorum. Next up will be consideration and correction, if any, of the minutes from our July 16, 2019 County Board meeting. Motion by Supervisor Banky, second by Supervisor Gauger to approve those minutes. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried, and the minutes are approved. There's no additions or deletions to the agenda? Just that one, but we'll correct that as we go there. So, all right, I guess we'll go right into reports of the county supervisor's offices and department directors. Anita and Sarah, if you'd like to join me at the podium, that'd be great. Good evening once again. Thank you. It's been a while since it's happened, but we do have a proclamation honoring one of our former supervisors, good friend of mine, all of ours, Supervisor Ed Rappy, who passed away earlier this year. I don't know if any of you in this room, I know I was more fortunate. I was fortunate to have him as a teacher at Lincoln High School back in that's 30 some years ago too, during the early 80s. But always considered him a great person, a great teacher. And as Anita and Sarah, his daughter, we were talking beforehand, one of the comments I thought about, especially the last week about this proclamation, was getting involved. And Ed was one of those persons that always encouraged people to get involved. And that's what one of the inspirations to me was, too. If I remember correctly, it was a senior taking his economics class. And there was something going on with the school board at the time. Sorry, Dave, you weren't there. So I'll be honest, I don't even remember what the big discussion was, but there was something interesting that was riling up the students at Lincoln. And I remember Ed getting up, and I've always been interested in politics and history at that time already. But I remember him get up and saying, if you guys really have some problems with this, get involved. Don't be afraid to run for office. Get involved. And that was an inspiration to me. And for better or worse, you can blame him, I guess. I've been here and involved, and I love it. And I thank Ed for not just, was a great friend of mine and a great mentor. And we disagreed at times. He used to say, we used to get our German up between the two of us. I don't know if that's politically correct to say anymore, but I think we all know what that meant. There's no disrespect to any nationality there, but good man. But so anyways, I have a proclamation commemorating the life and service of Edward C. Ed Rappy. Whereas Edward C. Rappy, being born on September 21st, 1938, was a graduate of UW Milwaukee with a bachelor's degree in international relations. Served in the U.S. Army in Bad Kreuznach, Germany from 1961 until 1963. Received a master's degree in teaching certificate from UW-Madison. Taught in McFarland High School from 1964 to 1966. Then Lincoln High School, Manitowoc Lincoln High School from 1966 until his retirement in 1999. And he passed away on June 3rd, 2019. And whereas Edward C. Rappy was active in county government, during his 5 terms on the county board, he served on the Executive Committee, Healthcare Center Committee, Human Services Board, Local Emergency Planning Committee, Personnel Committee, Safety and Accountability Panel, Special Healthcare Center Study Committee, and the Transportation Coordinating Committee. And whereas Edward C. Rappy was active in the community, he was a member of the Grace Congregational UCC in Two Rivers and a member of the Earth Care Ministry Committee. And whereas Edward C. Rappy was an individual that enjoyed canoeing, kayaking, cross-country skiing, and gardening. He was an avid historian and politically active throughout his life. And he loved to travel with his wife, Anita, to many countries and places in the U.S., especially with their camper. And whereas Edward C. Rappy was a strong leader who served the citizens of Manitowoc County in many capacities and contributed countless hours to improve the quality of life for all. Now, therefore, we, Bob Ziegelbauer, County Executive, and Jim Bry, Manitowoc County Board Chair, along with the Manitowoc County Board of Supervisors, hereby commemorate the life and service of Edward C. Rappy and express their condolences to the Rappy family. Dated this August 20th, 2019.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh, yes, please.
Never let it be said that I didn't get take a chance to say something. And I want to say thank you, first of all. But I also want to say, Jim pretty much said it, is that I applaud all of you for getting involved in your government. To quote a very, very important newspaper, big newspaper, democracy dies in darkness. And you all are doing that. You're representing the people and you have a voice, which is wonderful. So I thank you for that. And I thank you for this. Thank you very much.
One story, I guess, is kind of a funny thing, though, and it's not a disrespect to anything, but I remember seeing Ed for like one of the first times outside of high school. It was at a local political meeting, and I called him, "Hi, Mr. Rappy, how you doing?" He goes, "Well, hello there, Jim." He goes, "Now, we've been out of high school long enough. You can start calling me Ed." So that was it certainly wasn't disrespect to call him Mr. Rappy, but I thought that was another interesting thing. I just loved everything about him. But take care. Nice seeing both of you once again. Next, I have a proclamation declaring September as Juror Appreciation Month. Len Zigman, the clerk of court, couldn't make it tonight, but I'll still read the proclamation. So, whereas the right to a trial by jury is one of the core values of the American judicial system, service by citizens as jurors is indispensable to the judicial system, and the privilege and duty of serving as a juror is as fundamental to democracy as the right to vote. And whereas the Wisconsin State Court System, partnering with the State Bar of Wisconsin, has established September as Juror Appreciation Month to set aside a time to publicly recognize the contribution of those who are summoned and serve as jurors, to improve communication with jurors and employers, to disseminate a positive message about jury service, and to reinforce public confidence in the justice system. And whereas the Manitowoc County Board of Supervisors supports the goal of educating the public about jury duty and the importance of jury service, applauds the efforts of jurors who fulfill their civic duty, and believes that all jurors should be treated with respect and in a way so that their service is not truly unduly burdensome. Now, therefore, we, Bob Ziegelbauer, Manitowoc County Executive, and Jim Bry, Manitowoc County Board Chair, along with the Manitowoc County Board of Supervisors, hereby proclaim the month of September as Juror Appreciation Month in Manitowoc County. Not that I'm actively doing that, but it's been interesting. You know, I know a lot of people have been called as jurors, and I've been wanting to be called as a juror, and I've never been called. And I know you can't ask to be called, but this is always interesting. But we appreciate all those who serve, because it does something, as you know, so it can be sometimes burdensome, especially if it's a longer trial. So you take time off work. So thank you all once again. Is public comment, and we're fortunate enough tonight to have some of the funner things, if that's a word, in county government. We have a presentation by the 2019 Manitowoc County Fairs of the Fair, Marley Moolmans, tonight, and she's on the audience. She's going to come up and speak on the county fair. Welcome, Marley. We appreciate you coming. And like Supervisor Droll said, we are praying for no rain for the next several days, at least till Sunday at midnight. So.
Well, thank you guys for having me out. As you said, I'm Marley Moolmans, your 2019 Manitowoc County Fairs of the Fair. I just graduated from Balders High School and I'm attending UW Oshkosh this fall, hoping to major in social work. I'm very excited for fair this year. We've got a lot going on, but this year a big thing is we have 3,305 exhibitors in junior fair and then 3,763 exhibitors in open class, which is crazy. So I'd like to invite you all out to come celebrate 160 years of Harvesty members with me, your family, and your friends. On opening day, we've got fireworks at 9:30. On Thursday, we have the market animal sale at 7, and we also have truck and tractor pulls at 7 on Thursday and Friday also. Saturday, we have the Manitowoc County Culver's Futurity at 7 o'clock, and we have a new event, the Bull Riding Rodeo at 7 that night, which is going to be a lot of fun. Then on Sunday, we've got the Demo Derby at 1, and throughout the week, we've got a variety of music, and with the return of the Polka Pavilion, which is really great. So thank you all for all of the support for the Manitowoc County Fair, for the Fairs of the Fair program. It means everything to us, and we appreciate it highly. So thank you for having me out again, and I hope to see you there.
Do any of the supervisors have any questions of Marley at this time? You did forget the big event on Thursday afternoon, though. The cream puff eating contest, which which I will be participating in once again. I'm not very good at, but it's always a good time. So we get a chance 2:30 in the Polka Pavilion, so it's like in the western part of the fairgrounds. But I'm looking forward to it. I've been participating for the last several years. I'm not that good at it, but it's a good time by all. So I appreciate being invited once again. So. Anything else? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll be seeing you in the fairgrounds. All right. I'll open up the rest to general to public comments. If there's anybody wishing to speak to the county board this evening, please raise your hand and give your name and address, and you'll be allowed approximately 3 minutes to speak. Is there anybody wishing to speak this evening? Is there anybody wishing to speak this evening? Yes, Maura.
Chip Yo, Centerville. I begin tonight by expanding on Chairman Bry's comment last meeting about what I say in public comment. After each meeting, I provide a written copy of my remarks to each supervisor and the county clerk, which includes links to resources I quote. I continue to advocate for a half-penny sales tax so that we can pay down our county debt and begin to finance our county operations in a more pay-as-you-go way. Instead of exporting our tax dollars, we could keep our tax dollars circulating in our local economy as the county buys labor and materials locally. The importance of this at the local level will become more and more evident as our nation piles up debt. Bloomberg reported that, quote, the U.S. fiscal deficit has already exceeded the full year figure for last year as spending growth outpaces revenue. Our national debt recently topped $22 trillion, and if, quote, current law and spending levels remain unchanged, national debt will be nearly the size of the economy by 2022. That prediction is important to us in Manitowoc County because with the $6.06 million refunding bonds you are voting on tonight for 2019, our county's current debt of $39 million in principal and interest lasts through 2036. It will be 2029 before our county can begin to pay off those bonds earlier. State law exempts debt service from levy limits, making borrowing easier than real-time taxing to fund county operations. So while County Executive Ziegelbauer says that the 3% interest rate is cheap, in the long run, a half penny sales tax takes much less out of our local economy. Think about what we are doing to our nation. We are borrowing money from China to pay farmers subsidies while we engage in a trade war that eliminates their markets. We have little influence over national policies, but we do have influence over our county's policies. We need to think of our local taxes as an investment in our county's common good to better ensure our own local economic future. I support and ask you to support a half penny sales tax. Thank you.
Thank you, Maura, for your comments. Is there anybody else wishing to speak this evening? Anyone else wishing to speak? And for a third and final time, anybody else wishing to speak? Seeing none, I'll declare public comment closed. Communications are shown on the agenda. There is no unfinished business from our last meeting, so we'll jump right to appointments by the county executive. First up is to appoint 2 members to succeed Todd Bergman, Amy John, alternate, Debbie Holschbach for a 2-year term expiring in 2021 on the local emergency planning committee. And the recommendation is for Amy John, with the alternate being Debbie Holschbach, and Todd Bergman. Motion by Supervisor Gauger, second by Supervisor Vogel to approve the appointments. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried, and that's all we have tonight. Thank you very much on that. Jump right into committee reports. First up will be Aging and Disability Resource Center Board. Supervisor Wagner is the chair.
Thank you, Chairman Bryan. There is a walk to end Alzheimer's September 14th down by the YMCA, starting at 8 and the ceremony at 9. It's a small walk. Anybody interested in registering and recruiting? 1-800-272-3900. The next ADRC of the Lakeshore meeting will be September 24th, and it will be in Manitowoc County, starting at 10. That's the end of my report.
Any questions for Supervisor Wagner? Thank you very much. Board of Health, Supervisor Vogel will be giving the report this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Board of Health met on August 8th. Health Officer Mary reported on a communicable disease report, stating that the June and July communicable disease report, which included chlamydia, hepatitis C, and gonorrhea as the top 3 most reported diseases. Lexi Otis is a new health educator employee for the health department. She reported on the Healthiest Manitowoc County coalitions, and 6 bullet topics that they're going to address are investing in early coalition, which is a goal to get children ready for kindergarten. And they have several work groups in that capacity. The second one is youth engagement. Goal is to increase the number of students graduating from high school. The third is physical activity and nutrition. The goal is to increase physical activity. Worksite wellness. The goal is to increase the number of businesses to offer a worksite wellness program. Access to health services, and the goal is to increase health literacy and provide education on how to navigate the healthcare system. The last goal for Healthiest Manitowoc County is substance abuse and mental health, and that goal is to increase access to services for mental health and substance abuse. The WIC report reported in June, the caseload was 972 participants involving 561 families. The initial caseload for July was 1,000 participants involving 580 families. The contracted caseload is 1,106. There's 2 dates, save the dates from Healthiest Manitowoc County. The first one is a worksite wellness workshop. It's being held on Thursday, September 26th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Kaysen Corporation. And this is one of the topics that I just mentioned about big and small worksite wellness is for all, trying to get it started. The second date is going to be held at Manitowoc Holiday Inn on October 10th between 8 and 10. And it's time for reflection, rejuvenation, and action with Healthiest Manitowoc County of their past 10 years of prevention work. The next date for the Board of Health is set for September 12th at 5 PM at the Health Department. That's the end of my report.
Any questions for Supervisor Vogel? Thank you very much. Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, Supervisor Falkowski is our representative.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have no report for tonight, although our next meeting is September 4th. That's all my report. Thank you.
Any questions for Supervisor Falkowski? Thank you very much. Executive Committee, I've essentially no report, but we will be meeting sometime before the next county board meeting. I'll get all the supervisors, banking, Jerome. There's a couple items I think we'll might have to talk about the opioid portion again with the August 6th deadline, and there's a couple other items too, so we discussed. So any questions on that? Thank you very much. Ex-Boy Center Board, Supervisor Gauger is our representative there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Expo Ice Center Board met August 7th. We had no formal committee reports. We had reviewed our signups for volunteers and liaisons. We are moving our meetings from the first Wednesday to the second Wednesday of the month. It all works out a little better for public works and stuff. Let's see, we reviewed our financial reports. Janelle updated the board on some fair issues. The Manitowoc Explorer Scouts are going to help us with parking this year now that we have no horse parkers. So they've heard they've had good experiences with them. And our next meeting will be tomorrow. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and they will always be at 11 o'clock in the office. And that will conclude my report.
Dave was watering the track at the fair last night with the fire hose, and that's a good story.
Yeah, I have a lot of respect for firefighters after having a 2.5-inch line out that's 200 feet long. That's a lot to wrestle with, let me tell you.
Yes, Supervisor Vogel.
Parking people, not enough of them to go around, or?
No, we had enough to go around. It just turned into a liability issue with insurance. So we had to do away with that. And I think with our new parking lot, that'll help a lot too. It'll be a lot easier just to park yourself and easier to get in.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Vogel. Any other questions for Supervisor Gallagher at this time? Thank you once again, and it continues on. We still pray for no rain until at least midnight on Sunday or Monday morning when you look at it. All right, Finance Committee, Supervisor Hanson or Coach Hanson, whatever you want to call him tonight, is the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My apologies to this side of the county board for smelling like a football locker room, but I went back to work. Which reminds me, if you get a chance, go watch the high school in your area. Football, volleyball, tennis, cross country, soccer. Hope I'm not forgetting anything, but there are a lot of good kids out there that are competing this time of year and a lot of good programs starting. So please support those young people. They are very special. Finance met about a week ago. We've got a couple issues coming up. I'll do the first two, and then I'm going to turn it over to Supervisor Williams or Todd, because we did have a meeting before that I was not able to attend on the bond issue. But we did meet, and we're denying a claim. That's our first resolution tonight. A gentleman wanted us to pay for some damage to trees, but our insurance company said it wasn't our fault. So the committee decided to deny that claim, and I'll move to accept that resolution.
So motion by Supervisor Hanson, seconded by Supervisor Swade. Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
The supervisors will now vote on the resolution denying the claim for Jeffrey Schneer.
Resolution passes 21-1 with Supervisor Williams voting no.
Second resolution tonight. These come in every year or couple years when there is a change in ownership on the old Manitowoc Hotel. There's a antenna array on top of that building, and sometimes companies want us to reword something differently. It really doesn't.
Wait, Supervisor Hanson, do we have the resolution?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
It's all right, the transfer of money.
Yeah.
Okay.
So forget what I said, and that'll come up later. We're transferring 31,000 from the Highway Enterprise Fund to the Planning Zoning budget. This was a position that was put in the budget that we passed last year. We're now transferring the money to cover the cost of that position. So I therefore move.
So motion by Supervisor Hanson, second by Supervisor Bauman. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the resolution authorizing the transfer of $31,180 from the Highway Enterprise Fund to the Planning and Zoning Activity Budget for County Surveyor position.
Resolution passes 22-0.
Finally, I will turn it over to Supervisor Williams. There was a meeting before tonight's meeting to come up with the final details for the resolution on the $1 million general obligation refunding bond. So I'm not being there. I don't know if something came out of that meeting, but I'll turn it over to Supervisor Williams, and maybe Todd, if you want to make yourself available if there are questions.
I think we'll invite Todd and Brad to
Yes.
get up here from Baird too, but thank you, Supervisor Hanson. I'll turn over to Supervisor Williams right now.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And in keeping with Coach Biff's analogy on football, I'm going to take your loose ball and I'm going to bat it back to Brad Vigas. That's going to come up and
Thank you. There was a presentation handed out on your desks just before the meeting started, and this was also covered in the Finance Committee meeting before this meeting. I'll walk through this and answer any questions. This is the final step of the financing plan that was first put together late last year and started to be implemented at the beginning of this year. A couple things that I'd like to touch on. Last week, the municipal bond market, the municipal interest rate market hit record lows. So the timing of this really couldn't have worked out better for the county. The county is locking in debt tonight, if this resolution is adopted, that extends out to 2036 at an interest rate of 2.22%. So very, very low interest rate. That's a fixed rate. It's not going to change over the entire repayment period. You're effectively locked in at rates that are less than the annual rate of inflation has been historically. Couple of highlights on the summary page. You'll notice that the issue size is $6,065,000. So not only are interest rates much lower than anticipated, the borrowing amount is $440,000 less than the interim financing that was put in place back in February of this year. The funds are going to settle on September 23rd, and the proceeds then will be used to pay off that short-term note, the note anticipation note. The maturities are scheduled for annually for November 1st of 2022 with a final payment November 1st of 2036. Interest will be paid semi-annually beginning May 1st of next year and then each November and May thereafter. As I mentioned, the 2.22% interest rate. The detailed repayment schedule is attached. I won't walk through this line by line, but just to point out a couple of highlights. This total principal and interest schedule, the total cost to the county is approximately $1 million less than what was used for planning purposes when we started this process. That's a reflection on what's happening in the interest rates. The interest rates have just really dropped substantially since we started planning for this, and that's to the county's benefit. So overall, this is a very successful financing package. With your adoption of the resolution tonight, all of this is finalized. These rates are fixed, the repayment structure is fixed, and we'll work towards the closing in about 2 to 3 weeks. So with that, I'd be glad to answer questions or go into additional detail.
Any supervisors have any questions of Brad right now? Just phenomenal rates. I know the city worked out last with the city of Manitowoc as well last night and continues on with the counties. That's awesome. It's incredible. As you mentioned, Brad, in the finance meeting, the interest rate is actually less than the rate of inflation right now. So that's incredible. Any questions or comments? All right, I guess we'll just, if you don't mind, just stay up here for a couple of minutes, or if we just, we'll have to make a motion to approve the resolution or therefore. So motion by Supervisor Williams to approve, and then second by Supervisor Bruner. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of the $6,065,000 general obligation refunding bonds.
Supervisor Williams? There we go. Resolution passes 22-0. So, all right. Thank you, Finance Committee, and thank you, Brad, once again for the good news and your hard work on this as well. And you're as well, Todd. We appreciate that very much. So Supervisor Williams, do you have anything else, or Supervisor Hanson for that matter?
One last thing, Mr. Chairman. Peter Conrad, our Corporation Counsel, made us aware that of the legality. You know, we do deal in the Finance Committee, we deal with fixed, foreclosed properties. And the temptation may be to, get somebody involved that we know or ourselves involved. Peter made it very clear that it's against the law, quite frankly. So I just wanted to make everybody aware of that. Foreclosed properties are not for us on the Finance Committee. Peter, was that also for the other board members or strictly?
No, that's part of the, I guess the privilege of serving on the Finance Committee is Finance Committee members are the only members of the county board that would be excluded from bidding on in-rem properties.
Okay. Thank you, Peter.
Oh, okay.
Any questions on that or anything for the Finance Committee to Supervisors Hanson or Williams for that matter? Supervisor Hanson, yes.
Chairman Bry, just one other thing. You did get a report from Moody's on our ranking. We didn't change. Things did improve a little bit, but a lot of that was just things happening within the economy. We were able to get a little more money put away, so we have a little bit of a fund now. But it's worth the read to go through those documents and see what it says about where the county is financially. Take that, read it, and then discuss it with each other, because there is some good information in there about Manitowoc County and where we're headed, where we're going, and what we need to do. That should be in your email somewhere. If you don't have a copy, please let us know and we'll get it to you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You are welcome, and thank you. Any other questions or comments for Supervisor Hanson or Williams at this time? All right, thank you both very much. We will go on to the Highway Committee. Supervisor Benke is the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We met last week and we talked about invasive species. We talked about ditch cutting policies. We talked about the salt that we have, and the price of our salt is $62.23 a ton, the lowest in the state. So there are the other municipalities throughout our county that kind of piggyback on our salt price. So there's a lot of people benefiting the fact that our price is the lowest. So it's good. It's good news for all the other municipalities that are piggybacking on that contract. So that's all good news. So we talked about new bridge construction widths and the facts of how the DOT funding for bridges, if you let's just say a rural highway, county highway, that if we want to widen that bridge, normally that extra width that you're proposing comes out of, wouldn't be in the 80-20 financing or funding. We had a couple instances where we were doing that with our bridges. Mark explained to us some of the creative things that he was proposing with the DOT, and he did get both of those bridges approved for the widths underneath that good financing. So it's kind of interesting how that funding works and how the DOT works in mysterious ways sometimes. And bridge construction sometimes can get complicated, kind of like human services, Supervisor Hanson, when we used to be there years ago. If you need any questions answered, please call Mark, and we are getting a lot of information. We had a construction update about where they're at. The Colden Place on X, we had pictures of how that process, that's kind of a new process. It's kind of a big train of basically milling up the road, adding substance to it, adding oil to it, and laying it right back down. So it's kind of a neat process. It's not a new process actually, but it's new to this area. So a lot of new things happening at Highway. And again, if you have any questions about equipment, how funding works at the county highway, give Mark a call. We're trying to get as much education out there as possible so we understand how the highway department works. So that concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
Any questions for Supervisor Benke? Thank you very much. Human Services Board, Supervisor Henriksen is the chair.
Report, Mr. Chairman, but we do have, this coming Thursday will be our annual public hearing on the budget for the Human Services starting at 4 o'clock. And right after that, we'll be having our Human Services Board meeting. That concludes my report.
Any questions for Supervisor Henriksen? Thank you very much. Land Conservation Committee and UW Extension Education and Agricultural Committee, Supervisor Wagner is the chair.
Thank you, Chairman Bryan. The Manitowoc County Soil and Water Department and the Association for Home and Community Education Volunteers will be providing free nitrate screenings for well owners at the Manitowoc County Fair, August 21st through the 25th. Nitrate contamination is caused by fertilizers and animal or human waste seeping into groundwater. Screenings of well water are recommended to be done annually. Find out if your water is safe for use. Take a half cup well water in a clean bottle to the Soil and Water and Conservation Department booth in the Merchants Building at Fair for free testing. Screens will be done while you wait, or you can leave the sample at the booth and pick up your results later. The next meeting of the Soil and Water Committee, Land Conservation Committee, will be September 19th at 4:45 at the County Office Complex. The UW Extension Education and Agricultural Committee's next meeting will be October 17th at the County Office Complex at 4:45 p.m. Thank you. That's the end of my report.
Any questions for Supervisor Wagner? Thank you very much. Personnel Committee, Supervisor Marsh is the chair.
We met on August 6th, and we approved a Highway Department employee's donation of sick days to a fellow employee. And our next meeting is September 3rd, and that is the end of my report.
Any questions for Supervisor Marsh? Thank you very much. Planning and Park Commission, tonight the chair and vice chair are gone, so we will turn to Supervisor Vogt.
Thank you. We did not meet in August. Next meeting will be September 23rd.
Okay. Any questions for Supervisor Vogt? Thank you very much. Public Safety Committee, Supervisor Vogel is the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We met right prior to this county board meeting. And from that county board meeting, I bring you resolution number 4. It passed the committee 5-0 unanimous. And basically it's self-explanatory. Another citizen, August Richter, donated $1,000 to the Manitowoc County K-9 unit, and I so move.
So motion by Supervisor Vogel, second by Supervisor Hoffman. Any discussion on the motion? See none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the resolution accepting donation from Manitowoc County Sheriff's Office K-9 unit.
Motion passed 22-0.
Thank you. I also have ordinance number 5. This also passed the committee unanimously this evening. In speaking with Emergency Director Travis Walk, who is out of town at the time in training, he shared with me that apparently there was a number or two just off in the ordinance that was caught by Corporation Counsel, and just a housekeeping issue here, I believe. So I so move.
So motion by Supervisor Vogel, second by Supervisor Henriksen to adopt the ordinance or to change. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the ordinance amending Manitowoc County Code Section 20.14, Parent 2, Emergency Communications Corridors.
Supervisor Ballman, want to try once again? Thank you. The ordinance passes 22-0.
Okay, the next meeting for the Public Safety Committee is September 11th, second floor at the Manitowoc County Health Department at 5 p.m., and that's the end of my report.
Any questions for Supervisor Vogel? Thank you very much. Public Works Committee, Supervisor Giroux is the chair.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. The Public Works Committee met Wednesday, August 14th. We reviewed the Solid Waste and Recycling Division quarterly update. We reviewed the 2019 Capital Projects Report. We approved a pay request for Schaus Roofing for the law enforcement project. We discussed the resolution regarding the hotel downtown that Supervisor Hanson just went through. We discussed the resolution that I'll be introducing in just a moment, asking for approval to put a request out for bids for the Hecker and Vebon property. We discussed the Communications Division and the Information Services Department report. We went over the Expo projects and capital projects going on out there. And then we took a tour of the grounds, and the place looks great, and the fair is going to be wonderful. It's everybody take an opportunity to go out to the fair, walk around, look at all the great new stuff, the buildings. It's really an amazing difference from years past. I would like to propose now the resolution 2019-2020-27 authorizing or 26 approving a request to put the Hecker Vebon property out for sale. If you approve this proposal, we're going to accept bids from people, but it'll have to be at least a minimum of the appraised value of the property. I so move.
So motion by Supervisor Droll, second by Supervisor Hoffman. Discussion on the motion. We'll start with Supervisor Ballman.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to postpone this vote until next month's meeting. I understand the City Council Committee of the Whole of Manitowoc is meeting next week. And this is time for them either to decide or we're going to go ahead with entertaining other bids on the property. So I'd like to make that motion.
So if I understand correctly, Supervisor Roll, your motion is to postpone the vote on this resolution until September 17th, which would be our next county board meeting.
Correct.
Okay, so there's been a motion by Supervisor Ballman and second by Supervisor Bruner. Discussion on the motion. Supervisor Giroux.
Do you have some kind of inside information regarding this, that you're asking for this? Because we did hear from the city based on their interest, but the way this resolution is, we had the closing to the beginning of next year. So if the city does want to bid on it, they're perfectly welcome to, and then and anybody else. I mean, they've had this enormous amount of time, and I know that their April left, and we were told that kind of slowed things down. But I don't know why waiting one more month would actually make any difference, unless you can tell us otherwise. I for the good of the order. Somebody.
I guess I can answer it, I guess, just from my perspective. I guess I know there was some discussion before this meeting tonight that there was not going to be a lot of support for this resolution. I guess out of my personnel, I recommended to Supervisor Ballman, maybe delaying the vote by 1 month might buy enough votes for this. I don't want to see this resolution go down in flames tonight, because then essentially we'd start all over, and then there would be no RFP. If we go 1 more month to delay it, I guess I see it still going through. I guess it's in the spirit, I don't want to say the spirit of compromise, but I just don't want to see it end tonight, period. If delaying it by 1 month makes the process continue, I know it slows the process down. I know there's been a lot of involvement by Jerry Neuser from Public Works, from Peter, I would say comptroller's office, sorry, Corporation Counsel's office, and your committee as well. I guess that's just my thoughts.
I don't think I'm not speaking for the committee. I don't think we've waited this long. I don't think it makes any difference to anybody. I mean, I just wondered because I personally, as chair of public, nobody told me anything that this was happening. So just curious.
Okay, thank you, Supervisor Droll. So on the motion to postpone until September 17th, we're going to start Supervisor. I guess I know, but are you going to answer the questions?
Yes.
Well, okay, then I'll defer to Supervisor Ballman first and on that.
Supervisor Droll, I'm just sticking to my guns on my support for the city to get their first shot at it. I've said this in the past, and looking back at the map that we got on the I-43 industrial park, with most of the parcels being proposed or spoken for, the city is going to need a place to expand. And since most of the business is on that end of the city, I think we should wait until after the committee of the whole meeting next week. And then they can meet one more time, and we'll know by the next meeting whether they're interested or not.
Yeah,
that's it.
Thank you, Supervisor Ballman. Supervisor Williams, you're on the speaker list. Do you just want to speak on the motion to postpone? Or, okay, then I'll let you speak to that first. And then
Thank you.
Yes.
I have a statement that might answer your question, Rick. City Council President Eric Sitkowitz has scheduled a committee of the whole meeting for Monday, August 26th, to discuss the need for additional land that could serve the city as an industrial park to supplement our existing park that is nearly full. The V. Von Hecker property will certainly be discussed in detail to determine its suitability for that purpose. There's a great deal of thought and planning that goes into such a venture. Providing water, sewer, and electricity are just a few of the major issues. And for everybody's information, the county board members are invited to that meeting on Monday, as well as the public. So.
Thank you, Supervisor Williams. Now back to the motion of postponing until September 17th. With Supervisor Hoffman, you were first.
I cannot see why this would make any change for the city buying this property. What we're doing here tonight is making the county board saying that we're going to go ahead and receive bids. We're not selling it here tonight. If the city wants to put a bid in, it'll first come up for next month's meeting. I think we're all jumping to conclusions and I sure don't want to see the county give away that land to the city. I would say that the county wants to get its best price for that land. So I don't see why we wouldn't vote against this, because we're not voting to sell it now. All we're voting for is to receive bids.
Thank you, Supervisor Hoffman. Supervisor Vogel, you were next on the motion to postpone.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The only, I have a question is if it is postponed, what is the end date, like the sealed bid date? Would that be extended to like October 30th then, or?
I guess there would be some considerations, I guess, then next month, if it is postponed, that those dates are gonna have to be, I guess I defer to you, would be amended at that meeting, correct?
Yeah, I think what probably would be recommended would be to change the bid deadline to the end of, I believe it's set right now for the end of September. Would probably to change it till the end of October. Otherwise, you're dealing with a pretty short bid time. But the closing date, I would think, would still remain the same as far as January 3rd of 2020.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Vogel. Any other discussion on motion to postpone this until the September 17th County Board meeting? Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the motion to postpone the resolution approving request for bids for sale of the county real property, Hecker Vebon property, until the September 17, 2019 meeting.
The motion passed 17-5 with Supervisors Gauger, Wagner, Mink, Falkowski, and Hoffman voting no. So we will revisit this once again at our September 17th meeting. Anything else from Public Works, Supervisor Giroux?
Is the resolution, are you doing that? Oh, that's okay. Okay. All right. Oh, right. Thank you again. Right. In honor of my birthday, I would like to propose another resolution authorizing the subordination, non-disturbance, and attornment agreement between Manitowoc Place and Selco Partnership.
Supervisor Giroux, we got a couple of committee reports before that yet on the agenda.
Oh, no, that concludes my report.
Okay.
Sorry.
Any questions for Supervisor Giroux? Thank you very much.
Do I have to wait?
Next up is the Transportation Coordinating Committee. Supervisor Ballman is our representative there.
No report, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions? Thank you very much. Now we will go to miscellaneous, which is the Joint Public Works Committee and Finance Committee report. Resolution 2019-2020-27 authorizing subordination, non-disturbance, and attainment. That's where my readers come in necessary at times. Agreement, Manitowoc Place and Cellcom partnership doing business as Ryan's and Wireless. Supervisor Giroux, now you can speak.
I so move, Mr. Chair.
Motion by Supervisor Giroux, second by Supervisor Hanson. Any discussion on the motion? See none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the resolution authorizing subordination, non-disturbance, and attornment agreement, Manitowoc Place and Selco Partnership, DBA, Verizon Wireless.
Resolution passed 22-0. Thank you very much on that. Anybody have announcements? Supervisor Henriksen.
Just a reminder to everybody, September 12th through the 15th, the Vietnam Veteran Traveling Wall will be at the Expo. It'll be open to the public 24 hours a day. So there'll be a parade, well, not really a parade, but they will have a motorcade going from Two Rivers to the Expo. And if any veterans or anybody wants to go see the Vietnam Wall, come and do it, please. It'll be at the Expo. It's a moving experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Henriksen. I appreciate your reminder because I was going to mention, but thank you. Coming from a veteran, it means definitely a lot more. Thank you. Supervisor Hoffman, you had your hand up.
Just a reminder, I know it was all sent out by Chairman Bry for the notice for the twilight meetings that are coming up. And we're going to have one right here in Manitowoc County. It's going to be down at the Fitzgerald Farm at the Soaring Eagle Dairy. It's going to be held on Monday, August 26th. I mean, it starts at 6 p.m. You get a tour of the farm, and then you'll have a nice size sundae to eat and discussion about what goes on. If you have somebody around the city and stuff like this or somewhere that hasn't seen these large dairies, it would be good to take them down there and show them what the new dairy systems look like and what they're really doing with their manure and the rest of the feeds and the animals and stuff like this. I think it would be very eye-opening to a lot of people. So it's free. It doesn't cost a thing. I would like to see everybody attend. Yeah, ice cream at 7.
Thank you, Supervisor Hoffman. There, in the email that I sent to everyone in the invitation, there was an RSV. It's not required, but if you could RSVP to that email, would be great. Anybody else for any information, or that's it? So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Supervisor Niles, second by Supervisor Swade. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a safe drive home.